Hello. So I wrote out the little Reddit post and then I realized like maybe I wasn't explaining things exactly properly. So I'm gonna show you exactly what you need to look for if I wasn't clear. Um, Under bone shatter, under calcs, you can find the trauma of any build and the actual sustained self-hit damage. So this is my jug. He's right here. I just uploaded him into POB. And you can see here the self-hit damage after my Fizmet, which is like 89.25%, something like that, is 1926, which is because I have 84 stacks of trauma right now. It's important that this POB right now, as it's set up, is bait, and I'm going to show you how to de-baitify it. But this number times my attack speed, all right? So we got 1926 times 11.24 is 21,648 damage per second. All right, now you need to find a way of mitigating that. And the Juggernaut builds do it in multiple different ways. Mine does it by splitting it half between ES, half between life, and using a combination of Divine Shield and Untiring to regenerate more damage than it deals. But if this number here, where is it? If this number right here is higher than total life, then that build cannot sustain that trauma. The reason that build cannot sustain the trauma is that this number is the damage that you're taking after all of your armor and fortify and everything. So initially this is hitting me for 17.918 thousand damage. And I'm taking 1.962 of it. Now I don't walk around with 86 trauma, okay? It's just, I don't, this is not actually a sustainable trauma. I can hit this if I do Delve. Delve being specifically different because it's constantly feeding you monsters and you can just like sit in one position, especially if you have good AoE and just auto attack and then your trauma just skyrockets. But that's regardless of the point. The only thing I was trying to say is this number right here, this number at the bottom here, I'm pointing at my monitor because I'm really good at this, but this number right here, that's how much damage you will take the instant you attack. Okay, if that number is higher than the total life, then that build is bullshit. All right, and then let's say that number is like half of total life, for example, that will overwhelm just about any healing. It's possible, like I on my tooltip, my jug, I end up seeing like 12k life recovery per second and like 12k ES recovery per second. So it's possible to be doing that type of damage to yourself. But the most important part is that it does take time for your life and ES to like regen that, and it's not instant, right? There's a regen tick time to it, and you can kill yourself in that delay because of how fast Divergent Bone Shatter attacks, right? Because you're constantly generating more and more attack speed. So that's that. Now, that's one way. The second thing you can do to sort of check if a build is bait is by looking in their skills. If they have Berserk turned on, but they have no way of sustaining the rage degeneration. So Berserk costs more rage every second, right? Each second, 20% more rage loss rate. There's no way that I know of to sustain it infinitely. I mean, maybe there is. Fuck, I shouldn't say that. I don't on my build. Okay, so the first thing you do is turn Berserking off. All right. As you can see, look what happens when I turn Berserking off. All right. Not only is Berserking 8.1 million DPS loss, but turning Berserking off also takes my effective hits into the like way lower, and that's because Berserking has 19% less damage taken, right? 20% more attack speed is the reason. 20% more damage, 20% more attack speed is the reason people use Berserk. But this is not a permanent buff in most builds. All right. The second thing you can do to look at is to look for the tricks here, and look for sources. So, as an example, One of the tricks you can use is if you are using close combat support in POB. Close combat support, the minimum distance I think is 10 meters? Yeah, 10 meters, which isn't super big. 10 meters is like, 10 meters is like right here, I think, away from your character, right? Like this is your character, this is like an AoE, whatever, and then like, yeah, so 10 meters is right here. So you basically have to be standing. Important to see that my base weapon range is 2.2. Well, it used to be in different measurements. So I don't know the calculation different. I think that means that I get 22 on this here. So like if I put it at 22, which is my max, you see how my damage goes down? Because close combat reads deal up to 40% more damage based on proximity. It's like one of the quirky things about like a lot of Bone Shatter builds is that like the further away you are from the target, the less damage you'll deal. It's just just a thing. But here you can see, so I'm using, in my build, I'm using Forbidden Flesh, Forbidden Flame to get massive amounts of rage and to triple my effective rage, which is why I'm using Bear's Girdle. So this number here being maxed out at whatever it is, you can see like rage down here, 85. This number being maxed out while berserking is really unlikely. I think there are ways to do this, but I don't know how you would do that and disable your life regen at the same time, because I'm pretty sure the gloves disable your life regen. Yeah, so you could sustain it from this and unstoppable, but you'd kill yourself because there's no amount of leech that can account for the damage that trauma deals to yourself. Or unbreakable, what is it? No, untiring. Everything fucking starts with un. Anyway, the other stuff you can look at here is like if they only have onslaught on kill, that's not on for bossing. Okay, any new boss that doesn't die, unless you have like an onslaught flask or onslaught on hit, this goes off, and that attack speed makes a substantial difference. Same thing, like I'm using alt quality Blood Rage. Now 2% to gain a frenzy on hit, even with 10 attacks per second, isn't actually that likely. Like most of the time when I've been doing Metamorph, when I'm beating the shit out of a Metamorph, I'm only getting like an average of 1. So this would be more like this, and this would be more like off. All right, so no onslaught, only one frenzy charge because I don't have frenzy on hit, right? Just frenzy on kill. Endurance charges, I get those on hit. The other things you can look at here is the sources of maim and the sources of intimidate. Now these are fairly easy to get, but just something to be aware of. Like if they don't have a source of maim, I have a tattoo that gives me maim. But at 5% chance, it's probably almost never on. I mean, maybe it is. The other thing to look at is flask sustain. So I have a dove suffix on my basalt flask, and that gives me 17% attack speed. So if you turn that off, I lose even more DPS, and you on really long boss fights, you don't always have your whole flasks up. The big ones are having berserking being on because it just like drives your fucking damage through the roof, and on kill effects. If you take those on kill effects off and you understand that you can't be berserking and be at max rage at the same time in most builds, that's important. The other thing you can do is you can say, okay, well, what's my reasonable level of trauma sustained? So if you say I can survive 50, okay, look what happens to my build. This damage output when we turn berserking off, and we say my max trauma stacks are 50. All right, now let's say my max trauma is actually 30. Okay, that's what I can sustain. So then I go down to 10. All right, and now you're mapping between 10 stacks and between 15 stacks, unless you use increased duration. And the reason to use increased duration isn't just because you're a POB warrior, because if you look at the duration on trauma here, we can see that, why is it not showing us the actual duration? Well, I guess it's not. Anyway, so the duration, base duration on Bone Shatter's like 6 seconds on trauma, I think. Yeah, trauma is 6 seconds. So when you put an increased duration on that gem, an increased duration gem on Divergent Bone Shatter, the trauma is like 9 seconds. And what that means is that for every stack of trauma you have, you gain an extra 3 seconds of its uptime. So if you're running around mapping at 10 stacks, and that's all you can do because you fucking obliterate the screen if you have good AoE, then you're never doing that. And like, let's be real, like, if I'm walking around at 10 stacks doing 6 million DPS, I don't fucking need, like, I don't need 100,000 stacks of trauma, alright? Trauma is literally just a more modifier, more multiplier. So, you know, for every stack you add 3% more damage. So if you go up to 11 or 12 or 13, you're just adding, like, it's the same as saying 3%. Like, putting in a custom modifier that says, you know, 3% more physical damage is exactly the same as adding a stack of trauma. But if you're mapping with 10 and you increase that, then you can map around 15, which maybe is a little bit more comfy, but that doesn't mean that you're always doing peak. Okay, because what this measures actually is measuring, this is measuring what it would be if we were at 64 stacks. And if you look, all right, you know, say those guys are at 100, you know, say you're at 150 stacks of trauma, for example, all right? So I've killed myself way before I ever get there, okay? Because I've taken a 7303 physical hit. Now, you could split that, right? But I only have 826 ES. So you take 826 on that, I'd still one-shot myself. So if this number is higher than health, then the build doesn't work. And it's just I want to be at the top of POB. Anyway, hopefully that helps. I don't know if it's gibberish or what, but I'll post it and let me know. All right, bye.